Greetings and welcome, beloveds. Welcome, all sound seekers and vibra angels and frequent seers, to this sound therapy and vibrational healing broadcast. This is going to be the first in a series. I did one a few days ago, and announcing the workshop and a couple events I had in Los Angeles last week. And now I thought I would do a series. I promised last week that I'd talk more about brainwave entrainment, which is a very vital, innate, and important principle of healing and sound therapy. And I talked a little bit about it, but the video was almost an hour long, and I couldn't get more deeply into it. And I'm going to be doing a workshop in May for Portal to Ascension on Facebook. I'll be doing a special workshop on brainwave entrainment, but since May is over 3 months away, I thought I would spend the time with you now doing a special little video on brainwave entrainment, and so that you can understand it. Some of you may understand it, but in my travels around the world and based here in Los Angeles, and elsewhere around the States, I found that most people, I'd say probably 90% of people, don't know what brainwave entrainment is. So I'm going to endeavor to explain it with examples and clear, simple. It's not a complicated concept. You don't have to be a physicist or a scientist to understand brainwave entrainment. It's very natural, part of nature and our brains and how it works and everything. I'm going to explain it in detail in this little presentation so that you can understand it and hopefully use it properly. But first, I want to send a shout out and a thanks to the people that attended the Los Angeles Weekend Intensive workshop here this past weekend in LA. And we had probably more people from out of state than in Los Angeles. We had some people flying in from Seattle, and some people from Colorado, Atlanta, Phoenix, and elsewhere. I can't remember every place people were from, but some people from Northern California too. But in any event, I'm happy that everybody loved the workshop, and I'm grateful that you're pioneers and willing to challenge yourself and dive into the most important holistic and alternative healing modality there is, sound therapy, because we live in this universe of sound and our bodies are made up of sound. And I've explained that in previous videos, how our body consists of sound. If for some reason you didn't hear those webinars or videos where I've talked about that, please contact me at my email or phone number that I'll give in a little bit. But finishing up with acknowledging the people from the workshop, we had a very, very extraordinary 2-day event where we, in fact, actually 2 people had spontaneous healings during the workshop, during the vocal harmonic and overtoning sonic meditation, which is probably the deepest of the sonic meditations that I do, where after I teach the vocal overtoning and harmonic technique on Sunday morning, in the afternoon we do this closed eye meditative process using all the principles that we've addressed all day Saturday and Sunday morning in the vocal harmonics techniques. There's 15 to 20 exercises, and even though I have them on my recordings, my CDs and downloads, The Secrets to Healing with Sound and Toning, people, like to experience it live and get feedback and also hear it auditorily and practice it. So the workshop is the ideal place to do that, because the human voice certainly is the ultimate healing instrument. In addition to the 2 people that had spontaneous healings during that sonic meditation of harmonics on Saturday, we had somebody that had a very interesting past life experience during the chakra toning exercise. So there's a lot of interesting experiences and results from people that attended the workshop, and I thank you for being pioneers to spread the word out on the power and simplicity of sound therapy for the people that are willing to do some little minor work to do this and not well, now my phone's ringing. I can't pick it up now. But anyway, for those people that are exploring sound healing and sound therapy, like I think I mentioned in one of my previous videos, there's like good news and bad news. The good news is that unlike when I started doing this work 28 years ago in 1992, opened the first sound therapy center in Southern California. There was nothing like that around here then in 1992. In fact, it could have been the first one in California overall. I really can't say for sure what was going on in Northern California, but in any case, it was kind of a struggle for a few years until I got keynote speaker engagements at conferences, and I got a lot of play on the radio, a lot of TV and radio interviews that I facilitated, and so the word began to spread. And over the years now, sound healing is accepted by thousands of people. I guess perhaps millions of people worldwide. As I've been traveling the world in England, Italy, I did a sound healing workshop and concert tour of Bulgaria 2 years ago, and the last 2 years I've been spending a lot of time in Asia and Taiwan and Hong Kong and Shanghai and Shenzhen, where the people are very open-minded and open-hearted and really embrace this work. Unfortunately, with all this craziness in China, the lovely people there are rebelling against the communist government. So there's a lot of news and kind of craziness over there. And now on top of that, now we've got the coronavirus. So I had to postpone my trip. Usually I go to Taiwan every March. So we've postponed the Taiwan trip to September. And I was supposed to go to, Hong Kong in the fall, and we had to postpone that trip indefinitely. I don't know when things are going to be safe for me to go back to Hong Kong and Shanghai, and we were talking about going to Beijing too. So everything's on hold right now until they straighten out their issues there in China. I don't want to be taking too many chances going to these third world countries. People don't realize how great we have it in this country until you visit some third world countries like I have in Egypt, where there's guys in Cairo on every corner with machine guns that are just barely teenagers, and then this communist control in China, and some of these other countries I visited. It makes you really appreciate the United States and America and all the beautiful blessings that we have here. Even if we have a lunatic in the White House who could be leading a lot of people astray, I don't really worry about it because Spirit's really in charge of things, not the president. So I'm not very politically active. It's all karma, how it plays out. And when you see the big picture, everything's unfolding perfectly because it's in divine hands, regardless of what the worldly people think. My brothers and sisters out there, I'm sure you're a little less attached to that, hopefully, as I'm not attached to that. In fact, that's what keeps us in the transmigration of the soul and birth and death is our attachments. If we released our attachments to this kind of training ground of this dimension, then we don't have to be bound by it. And since this is my last incarnation here in this dimension, I'm trying to share as much useful information as I can through my sound therapy practice, and try to support as many people as I can. I live to give, and I enjoy doing that and being of service. I'm passionate about sound therapy and all the wonderful benefits. I'm a walking miracle of sound therapy myself. I had 2 near-death experiences. I was in a coma for 30 days 10 years ago. Some of you know about that, and there's a video on my website that talks about it in brief, but it's a pretty lengthy story, and maybe I'll do a video or webinar sometime in the near future explaining the details, because I know most of you out there don't know the tremendous things that I've healed and the blessings from Spirit that I've gotten in healing lung disease, liver disease, kidney disease. I was on kidney dialysis for a year, and I couldn't even get them to take me off the machine so I could heal my kidneys. When I finally did, I almost immediately was able to heal my kidneys, and haven't been on, dialysis in many, many years. But it was a long journey. Healing was on oxygen also for 2.5 years, 24/7. Healed my lungs with sound therapy and got off oxygen. My legs were broken in a bad car accident. My hand and both legs were broken 2010 in a serious car accident where my car was totaled and I was in rehab. Doctors told me I wouldn't walk for 6 months, and I walked out of rehab in 5 weeks without a walker. Used a cane for a week or two, and then that was it. The doctors were blown away that I could actually heal the broken bones again with sound therapy. And keep in mind, when I talk about sound therapy, I'm not talking about sound machines. I'm not talking about musical instruments or tuning forks, bells, bowls, didgeridoos, any of the other instruments. I'm talking about the ultimate healing instrument. Are you paying attention? I'm talking about the ultimate healing instrument, the human voice. My first instructional recording, that was the title, The Ultimate Healing Instrument, the human voice. And that's what I specialize in. And I have 4 didgeridoos. I have bowls and bells and forks and drums and all sorts of things, but I rarely use them. Sometimes we have fun. We'll do a drum circle or a rhythm circle. And when I do, healings with vocal harmonics, occasionally I'll use a shaker, a bell, just to for just some added things that, maybe I'll explain in more detail in a future presentation. But it's the voice is the ultimate healing instrument. Only the human voice is alive. It's a living thing, and it's connected to the soul. No other instrument can do the same that the human voice can do, because it's artificial. It's an extension. It's a middleman. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with instruments or bowls or shakers or musical instruments in general. They're just not as effective as the human voice. Acoustic instruments are certainly a lot preferable to sound machines. I've got research papers from, 30 years ago that I used to quote and talk. Now I don't really spend much time at research. Those in the old days when I did a lot of research and I was preparing and writing my book, Sound Medicine. I did research for 10 years and writing and formatting and doing all that. It took me 10 years to put that together. And of course, we always can like to change things after they're finished. But, in general, I'm very happy with the book. It's my life's work. In fact, that was published 2 years ago in Chinese when I was in Taiwan, and the people there loved the material in the book so well. The people that spoke English wanted to translate it for me into China. So I arranged a publishing deal with my business partner in Taiwan, and we got it published just about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago now, and it's selling quite well in Chinese. They had to change the title. Instead of Sound Medicine, because of the laws over there, you can't use the word medicine. So they had to go to my original title. When I originally self-published the book, it was called Overtoning, because I wanted to, use that word that most people don't know what it is, to kind of like the first book on toning by Laurel Elizabeth Keyes was called Toning. And I thought I would, coin the word overtoning some 30 years ago. So my original book was called Overtoning, because I wanted to popularize that word as toning was popularized. But it's not really a commercial title. So when I was published back in 2007 by New Page Books on the East Coast, they changed the title and the cover. And I think the title probably is a better title, Sound Medicine, but I still like my original cover better than the cover of Sound Medicine. But that's all water under the bridge, so to speak. I hope you have gotten a copy of Sound Medicine, because it's the only book on the market that I'm aware of that actually teaches you sound healing. That I read some good books from people out there when I was preparing in 30 years ago, when I was learning about sound healing and sound therapy. But they didn't teach you anything. They had some good information, but none of them really taught you sound healing. So that's why I set my mind and intention to create something that would be quite useful for people to use and reuse and teach 48 exercises. There's 48 exercises contained in the book Sound Medicine, a separate table of contents just for the exercises. So I hope those of you that have the book are making good use of it. And those of you who don't have the book, borrow it, buy it, and get it and use it, because it will greatly support your health and wellness intentions, and has some good exercises and principles, charts, case histories, all sorts of good stuff. It's a very easy read. But anyway, enough about sound medicine. I want to get back to the topic of entrainment. And once again, one final shout out and thanks to all the people in the workshop this past weekend that ventured far from home, out of state, to come to Los Angeles to do the sound therapy weekend intensive workshop with certification. Everybody's got a certificate of completion in sound healing. And that's the ironic thing. I said there was good news and bad news about sound healing. The good news is that it's more widely accepted now, but the bad news is, I don't know about the rest of the country, but in California, it's like everybody's a sound healer. It's so funny in a way, but it's also misleading because, so many people, they read a book or they study something through Google or attend a workshop or a sound bath, and then all of a sudden they're a sound healer because there's no organization to monitor ethics and standards in sound healing. So I guess anybody could call themselves a sound healer, but that doesn't mean they're a certified sound therapist. And there are, a lot of good people. I don't judge anybody, but I have to judge behavior and practices, because that's just it's not healthy for people that are unaware of these things and that haven't studied it properly. And this sound bath fad is really getting, I thought it was amusing originally, but now it's been growing and growing, and it's not really healing sound. In my last video, I discussed last week the 3 R's, the 3 types of sound, and how sound baths and most so-called sound healing that's being done is the first R is relaxing sound. It has nothing to do with release sounds. The second R, the first R is relaxing sounds, which I'm not getting into now. I explained it in the last video that you can check on my website or online. It's still on Facebook, in fact. And then the second R is release sounds. And, you might experience a healing through relaxing sounds or releasing sounds, but you shouldn't give the credit to the sounds. You could give credit to yourself. The body is a self-healing mechanism, and you should, pat yourself on the back for being ready to pop, so to speak, because, healing goes beyond time and space. I've worked with people for 28 years now, and I've noticed, sometimes people have the healing after they leave my office. Sometimes they have the healing on the way to the office, as well as at my office or with me. You can't predict those kinds of things within time and space. But if you have a clear intention and you do some work, and the beautiful thing about sound healing is you don't even have to do that much work. The brainwave entrainment part that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, you don't even have to stop what you're doing. You can do it while you're on the computer. You can do it while you're eating, getting dressed, reading, driving in your car. So we're all busy people in this kind of frenetic society and chaotic world. Nobody wants to have 30 minutes or an hour of homework to do every day. Nobody's got time for that. And I consider that. So I don't try to give people a lot of work, a lot of homework, because then they tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater and not do anything. So the ideal is to understand sound therapy. There's some work that you have to do, but it's kind of fun. It's just the toning work. And the entrainment, which is the first half of it, is kind of passive. You don't have to stop what you're doing. And if you can just make 15 or 20 minutes of time twice a week, you can do more than that, but if you can at least make 15 or 20 minutes of time twice a week to do some vocal toning, then you can do the second half of sound therapy, which covers the release work and the cleansing process, the opening up of blockages, because these vocal harmonics and overtones are very powerful. And there's no instrument. You create overtones and harmonics with musical instruments. Most musicians understand the overtone series and how harmonics and overtones work in a musical sense, but most of them do not understand the therapeutic aspects of sound and harmonics and overtones. And when you combine that with the diagnostic sound analysis to find out exactly what people need, then you have a really, winning recipe or prescription, actually, sonic prescription for sound therapy. And it's very inexpensive. So it's not very time consuming. It's probably the least expensive of all the alternative and holistic healing modalities out there. So, what's the problem? I don't understand why there aren't millions of people embracing sound therapy instead of wasting their time in sound baths just listening to pretty sounds. In fact, it's not going to be a pretty sound that's going to release a tumor or an addiction or some heavy blocked energy. It could take a very, annoying sound that nobody wants to sit around listening to some annoying sound like yatata, 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 yatata. That's no fun. But, it could take that a sound like that to release a tumor or some severely blocked energy. Isn't it worth it to listen to or make some, annoying sounds if it's going to heal a chronic problem that you've had for years? I mean, what's the big deal, Sure, we all like aesthetic sounds, aesthetic beauty visually and auditorily. I get that. And most of sound therapy is, we're generally drawn to sounds that we need anyway. But you have to put things in proper perspective and don't let people convince you that you're going to be having this grand healing experience and be balancing your chakras and doing all this healing just, laying on a yoga mat or in a pillow, listening to crystal bowls and didgeridoos, and particularly not electronics, even if it's tuned to the 432 hertz, which I do support. The new tuning, I think, is superior to the 440. But ultimately, once you get deep enough into sound and harmonics, even the tuning doesn't even matter. But, it stirs up a lot of controversy. When I talk about the lack of healing from sound baths or talk about the tuning modes or a lot of things, I get a lot of conflict and a lot of people that are always, challenging me because, maybe they're making their living that way or they're having fun with the sound baths. To each his own. Like I said, I don't judge anybody. Do whatever you feel drawn to do. Trust your intuition. That's something that gets greatly heightened the deeper you go into sound therapy and the more you use vocal overtoning and vocal harmonics for your healing. It's amazing how strong and clear your intuition gets and how clear that you get with your intuition. So definitely trust it. And just take what I say within a grain of salt. I'm about empowering people, not telling them what to do or what not to do. I do recommend that you get a diagnostic sound analysis because it's the single most powerful thing you can do to understand your personal frequency, and then take the reins and work with it. Raise your frequency, help other people understand which frequencies to use and how to use them. And there's just a world of information that you can gain from a diagnostic sound analysis to really get your motor running and get you going into the experience of sound healing. And that's why my workshop is very experiential. People come to the workshop to learn the exercises and have the experience. And I appreciate everybody trusting themselves as well as trusting me and trusting in sound that attended this past weekend. And I might mention here before I start talking about entrainment is the next workshop will be May 30th and 31st in Los Angeles. I may be doing some other workshops in some other cities. I won't be going abroad to Asia again or to Taiwan until September, but I'm happy to come to any city. I try to keep my schedule flexible. So if you're listening to this from a particular city and there's enough interest there in sound therapy, you can get, 10 or 12 people together. I'll come to your city and do my workshop because I'm trying to spread the word. It's not about the money for me. It's about being of service. And it doesn't have to be hundreds of people. I'll do a workshop as long as I can make enough money to cover my overhead and plane fare and accommodations and whatever else. I'm happy to go anywhere and do my sound therapy workshop. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And remember, my website is just my name, wayneperry.com. And you can learn a lot just from perusing the website. If you have a few minutes to take the time, there's there's my events page, which has my upcoming calendar on it. It has the blog page, which has articles and very informative information. Some of the articles I've written, some of them are written by authors and magazines and other people that have written about me or about my work or have interviewed me over the last 28 years. So it's very informative. There's also, of course, a products and services pages. You can explore all the sound therapy services I offer. The products page where my book and downloads and laminated texts and CDs, all that is available on the products page. And don't miss the video page, because there you're going to get a great sound healing education by studying the videos. There's at least a dozen videos and webinars on that are free to view. Doesn't cost you anything to go to wayneperry.com and explore the, not to mention the testimonial page. You can read all the glowing testimonials from people who've done my workshops or private sessions. So anyway, that's a little information, that I have to, throw that plug in so that you have a way to reach me. I try to be as accessible as possible, and my email and phone number is on the website. I don't hide it like a lot of people do. They don't want to be bothered. They don't put their email or phone number on their website until you jump through hoops and give them a lot of personal information. I don't go through those gyrations. My email and phone number is right there if you have questions or you want to contact me to set an appointment or just to get some questions answered. Feel free. If I'm not with a client or a student or a patient, I answer the phone. I don't have anybody screening my calls. I might have to down the road. I used to have people screening my calls in the past, but I try to be accessible now as much as possible. So feel free to communicate with me if you like. Anyway, getting to our topic of entrainment. First of all, entrainment is a universal principle. It's not just dedicated to sound healing and sound therapy. We can see entrainment in nature. Some of you may be familiar with I think it's called the Bentoff experiment, where a bunch of doctors or scientists had gathered for a conference, and they were studying the principle of entrainment, and they got 100 grandfather clocks they put in this conference room. 100 grandfather clocks with the pendulum swinging to and fro every which way, with all these clocks ticking and talking. And they put all the 100 clocks into this room, and then they left the conference to go to lunch or other activities. And they came back in a couple of hours and to the room with all the 100 grandfather clocks, and every pendulum was swinging in sync. All 100 pendulums were in sync with each other, and every tick was ticking together, and every tock was talking. So all the tick-tocks and pendulums were all united in a state of oneness, which is a great metaphor for understanding our life and the oneness that we ultimately all are spiritually, that a lot of people misconstrue or don't really understand. And so entrainment can help on so many levels, not only understanding oneness, but it's similar to, but not the same thing as synchronization. The thing about brainwave entrainment, why it's such a powerful healing modality, is that it's based on repetition, and anybody can do it. Whatever you want to entrain to or with, you can do. And so I encourage you to explore it. Now, I'll give you the definition of entrainment, although it's probably not going to help you much. Entrainment, the definition for entrainment is mutual phase locking. Now, the specific kind of entrainment, not setting grandfather clocks in motion, but with the body and healing, is referred to as brainwave entrainment. Now, brainwave entrainment then would be defined as mutual phase locking of brainwave patterns. Now, that's an interesting clinical statement, but once again, it doesn't teach you anything. So that's why a lot of these terminologies, these clinical phrases and sentences and terms, I try to identify, and help people to understand, usually by example or an easier way to understand things. And so there's a very simple example to explain brainwave entrainment, because we all, whether we want to or not, we all listen to music. We hear it on the radio or a TV or driving in our car or in a restaurant, even if we're not music lovers. And I think probably most of us are music lovers. But even if you're not, it's easy to understand the principle of brainwave entrainment, entrainment for in regard to music. So if you just think about it for a second, what's going on is most of the songs that you hear when you're listening to music go in one ear and out the other. But certain songs stick and you remember them, and then you might catch yourself humming it or singing the song later. Now, did you ever wonder why that happens or how that happens? Well, that's one of the things I'm going to explain here, because unlike general entrainment, we're getting more specific with brainwave entrainment. Maybe we have time, I can throw out one more example of entrainment, general entrainment, because I had a lady asking me about it a few weeks ago. Some years ago, you may have heard of a little experiment they did in the colleges where they had 5 or 6 women in a college dorm. They put them in the same dorm together, and within 2 or 3 months, they all had their menstrual cycles together in sync. They were all in sync with their menstrual cycles, and they thought that was a really peculiar, interesting situation, and it is. But it's entrainment. That's another example of entrainment. When you have people together and there's a certain repetition, and a menstrual cycle is a repeated cycle that occurs monthly. And when the ladies are together in the same proximity regularly, the repetition of them being together and the repetition of the menstrual cycle will sync up, and they'll all have their cycles together within a couple months. And this has been proven and shown many times, and maybe forgotten about, because I remember hearing about this many years ago. But I thought I'd bring it up again because it's related to our topic of brainwave entrainment. So that's general entrainment. Getting back to the specifics of brainwave entrainment and how we process music, when you learn a song and you catch yourself singing the song, if you reflect on that experience, you didn't go somewhere, sit in your room, or go to the park and put the music on and say to yourself, let's see, the chorus goes up and then the bridge goes down and then the verse repeats. You didn't do any of that. What entrained it into your brainwave pattern so you could remember it is the repetition of the song. That's it. But why did that 1 in 10 songs, or might even be 1 in 20 songs, I don't know what the specific percentages are, but why did that one song stick in your head and another 10 or 15 songs or whatever went in one ear and out the other? Well, I don't know. Have you thought about that? Maybe you have, but if you haven't, I'll explain what's going on. The songs that go in ear one out the other, there isn't particularly anything vital that you need in the sound of those particular songs. The songs that stick in your head contain something that your body needs, that your brain needs, because your brain will gravitate towards whatever sound it needs. This is part of the body's self-healing mechanism. That's very powerful and very useful. The body can heal itself of all sorts of stuff if given a sound environment, all puns intended. So if you have a sound environment and you're listening to sounds, this affects you. And if they're repeated, and generally, like I say, your brain will gravitate towards what you need. And most of the time, we kind of like the songs that stick in our head, but not always. It's just like people. We can be drawn to certain people that are generally people that we like, but sometimes we're drawn to people that aren't good for us. It's also like food. Sometimes we're drawn to food that isn't good for us. Most of the food we like is probably good for us, but there's always things that we like that aren't good for us. So that's the way human nature is. That's the way the world is. We're in this world of duality and support and temptation and all these things that are activated within the mind. And I'm going to be doing upcoming videos and webinars about some of these aspects of the minds, different aspects of sound therapy, the metaphysics of sound, all sorts. There's so much to talk to. There's no way of summing it up in an hour video. So I'm going to be doing more and more videos in the future. But right now I want to continue elaborating on this brainwave entrainment because, like I said, you didn't practice and memorize that song. It just stuck in your head. But what caused it to stick in your head? And how many times do we have to hear something to stick in your head? Well, I've already answered the first question. What causes it to stick in your head is the repetition. But the other part of that answer, I kind of also answered too, is the fact that you need something in that song. If there isn't anything that you need in that song, then it's not going to stick. It's not going to entrain in your brainwave pattern. So I'll have people that are, kind of unaware, don't understand the principles real well, and maybe they're music lovers, and they say to me, well, if I listen to my favorite R&B song all day, it's going to be healing for me. Well, unfortunately not, because the songs that you like, on the radio or whatever, you might like them. That doesn't necessarily mean they're healing. But if it sticks in your head, then it does have healing potential. But unfortunately, the music business isn't about sound healing. And you're not going to get any healing from music that you hear on the radio for several reasons. For one thing, none of the music that you hear on the radio, if you understand anything about the recording process, is created naturally. You're not hearing the actual voice or saxophone, piano, guitar, or drum. You're hearing a digital representation of it, like a computer representation. And even though it sounds just like the instrument or the drum or the voice, it's not. It's like a digital representation of that sound. So it's not natural. We're listening to all these electronic sounds. That's why all my CDs and downloads that I recorded analog, direct to tape in the studio, rather than getting involved in sampling and digital technology. That's why people say to me, it's they think they're listening to synthesizer music, because vocal harmonics and overtones, especially when you overdub several tracks on top of each other, it can sound electronic, but it isn't. It's all natural, organic, analog sound and music. So in any event, I'm just making a statement for those. Most people haven't been in the recording studio and don't understand the process of what they're listening to on the radio, which is not really healthy from the first perspective, because it's all digitized and artificially created. And the second reason that's very important that it's not healing is it's not giving you enough of the specific frequency that you need. The reason the song's stuck in your head is there's something in that song that your body needs, your brain gravitates to, but we don't know what it is. It might be the key of the song. It could be the primary notes in the chorus. It could be a harmony note. It could be any number of things. But since we don't know quite what that frequency is, we just know that the song sticks in our head and we like it, and that's about all we know about it. And so when a person asked me, if I just listen to that music all day, is it going to be healing? Well, no, it's not going to be healing, because first of all, of the way it was created digitally. Second of all, because there's too much. Even though there might be a note or two that you need, a frequency or two that gives you support in the brain, you're getting all sorts of other frequencies that you don't need, and you might even have an excess of in your brainwave pattern. See, that's the problem, is those negative frequencies cancel the positive ones out. So there was enough of that frequency to entrain to your brain, so you remember the song. I'm sure, like me, you can remember songs from your childhood. Sound doesn't go away. Once it entrains in your brainwave, it stays there forever. It doesn't disappear. That's why it's so important to do a sound analysis and to do some brainwave entrainment, because you can put in your brain whatever you want to put in your brain with repetition. There's just a simple process you have to go through, but you don't have to be a doctor or a scientist or a physicist to understand it. But the song that sticks in your head, though, it's not healing. Well, there's a number of reasons it's not healing. The two main ones are the way it's recorded and the fact that there's too many other frequencies and notes that are distracting from the one or two that maybe you need and that could be potentially healing. Is not going to get to you because of the the other frequencies. So it's kind of like a sonic stew. It's like a potpourri of tones. Some might be needed. Some would be kind of neutral, because maybe those frequencies are okay in your brainwave pattern. And then the third option is frequencies that you have an excess of, and those don't do you any good at all. And so those are the three categories of sound that you're hearing in a song that sticks in your head. There might be a frequency or two that you could derive benefit from, but it's blocked by the way it's recorded, and by the fact that it's oversaturated with all the other notes and frequencies of the song that you don't need and perhaps have an excess of. And that's another thing that's relative to what I was talking about before about sound baths, why they can be dangerous. People don't understand, how could a sound bath be dangerous? Well, they're dangerous because the people that are facilitating the sound baths, no matter how well-intentioned or loving, lovely people they are, and I have some friends that do them, and I love them, and I don't judge them, but they're not certified sound therapists, and they haven't done your sound analysis. They don't know what frequencies you're weak in to give you. They don't know what frequencies you have an excess of in your brainwave pattern. So they're just putting out random frequencies, and if you get the ones that you have an excess of, it may make you sick. It might make you dizzy. There's different people have different sensitivity levels and react in different ways. So it's best to just avoid sound baths altogether if you want to really, be safe. They're not really doing anything for you. Like I said, if you feel you got some benefit from them, you should give the credit to your body. The body's a self-healing mechanism, and when in a sound environment, it could kick in and help you. But there's too many dangers in using sound machines and sound baths and some of these other things. That's why I put my sound machines in storage. The first 2 years of my practice in 1992 and 93, I was using a self-management auditory device that was researched to be the most effective sound machine on the market, and it was. But when I had my kidney stone attack, and I'd had kidney stones previous to that for 7 years, and one of the reasons I got into sound therapy is to try to heal my kidney stones. And I turned on my frequencies because I knew from my sound analysis exactly what frequencies to put into the machine, and I didn't get any benefit at all from the pain. And so it was frustrating. I was thinking of that old saying, physician, heal thyself. How can I help anybody else if I can't help myself? And so then shortly thereafter, I discovered in pain, these sounds started coming through me. Had I not been meditating and channeling these sounds, which occurred by accident, I wasn't trying to do it, I was just meditating, and these sounds started coming through. And that was my breakthrough, when these harmonics and overtones started channeling through me. I didn't know what they were. I mean, I'd never even read a book on toning at the time, or harmonics or overtones. But then I did. When those tones came through, I immediately passed the kidney stone the first day. Previous for 7 years, I had chronic kidney stones every year like clockwork. And in order to avoid surgery, I would use a combination of vitamin B6 and magnesium, which a Russian healer in Chicago years ago showed me was a way to soften and shrink kidney stones so they pass through the urethra or ureter and bladder, and you don't have to have surgery or be plagued with the pain of kidney stones. So I learned to do that, and every year I would pass my kidney stone with B6 and magnesium. Before I go to bed, I take it, and then it affects the urine and the bladder so that you can release the stones. And they have some other, I think, some kidney stone formulas now. Not thinking of the name, Chapra. I'm spacing on the name, but anyway, there's other ways to deal with kidney stones. But I healed mine with sound therapy, as well as countless other things that I mentioned earlier: lung disease, liver disease, kidney disease, so many different things. I'm so grateful to be given the privilege to do this work. And I'm a walking testimonial, that's for sure, as well as all the other people that have given me testimonials on my website. But anyway, you can do the same thing. You can discover this. But getting back to the brainwave entrainment that I want to get across in this, presentation here, that the repetition is the key. And another analogy I'd like to use that I think will help you understand sound therapy a little more clearly and understand it better is that it's very similar to food. I mentioned, just like we're drawn to certain songs, some which can be generally good for us, even if they're not healing. There's nothing wrong with them necessarily, but there's other songs and sounds that can exacerbate your chronic healing issues, physically, emotionally, vibrationally, that you want to avoid. And so it's the same thing with food. We may be generally drawn to healthy foods, but we all have our weaknesses and are drawn to other things that are unhealthy besides cigarettes and alcohol. We're all aware of, but there are foods that aren't good for us that You know, I had a lot of food cravings that I was kind of addicted to when I was younger. And thankfully, I've learned how to substitute other things and rise above those distractions. But I want to draw the parallel here with food and sound, because I think it's one that will help you really understand sound therapy better. Because with food, you know, you can eat the healthiest food in the world. I did a video about the frequencies of food. It's still around somewhere on my pages on Facebook if you haven't seen it. But I talk about the 5 frequencies of life, the 5 frequencies, and those 5 frequencies translate to earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And those 5 frequencies are active in different degrees to different life forms. And you know, I'm not going to go into that now, but you can check out that particular webinar or video and learn a lot about life as well as food. All I want to say here with regard to sound therapy and food is that you can eat the healthiest food in the world, you know, all organic, natural fruits, nuts, seeds, vegetables, whole grains, and, you know, really healthy food. But guess what? If you don't eliminate that healthy food, you're going to die. So that's the fact of nature. You know, what goes out, what goes in must come out. And similarly, you can reverse that example. You could have the healthiest digestion and elimination in the world. You could be doing herbs and colonics and have great digestion and elimination. But guess what again? If you don't eat, you're going to die. So these are, you know, 2 obvious symbols, you know, that we're aware of with food. That maybe we don't contemplate or, you know, talk about that much, but, you know, we eat healthy and ideally, hopefully, and we have healthy eliminations to stay healthy. That's the optimal. What's the same thing with sound? The sound that comes in is important as well as the sound that goes out. So I could sum up sound therapy in those 2 parts. The sound that goes in is the harmonics and overtones that you can learn to create in my workshop or in my book, Sound Medicine, or in my downloads, The Secrets to Healing with Sound and Toning. That's all very inexpensive and available for you to learn very easily. And, and then you set up regular entrainment, a few minutes every day. You don't even have to stop what you're doing. You can do it while you're driving in your car, while you're eating lunch, or while you're on the computer. You know, it's so simple and it's so inexpensive. You can put those frequencies permanently back in the brain, just like those songs that you remember from childhood. Sound doesn't go away, it's permanent. So work with the empowering permanent sound instead of wasting your time with this temporal stuff that isn't going to serve you. And remember, the voice is the ultimate healing instrument. So get recordings of, well, harmonics and overtones. Best is live. That's why I do healing treatments and vibrational alignments. Almost every week, I've got to realign somebody that went to a sound bath and got their frequencies all messed up from, you know, people that didn't know which frequencies they were weak in and which frequencies they have an excess of. So I have to realign people that know where their imbalance came from somebody that called himself a sound healer and gave them the wrong frequencies, or a sound bath, or some other thing that I'm not aware of. And then I have to realign them, which I don't mind doing. I'm here to serve. But, you know, put the horse before the cart and learn how to use sound properly. It's just amazing to me that I see, you know, hundreds of people going to these, you know, sound baths and concerts and dance events and some of this stuff, you know, and such a small percentage are doing the real work, are doing sound therapy workshops or sound analysis, and the things that take very little time and are very inexpensive. You don't have to invest in a sound machine like I invested over $4,000 in a sound machine and multimeter and subwoofer speakers and all this technology and stuff. It didn't help my kidney stones at all. It wasn't until I started using my voice that I released the kidney stone immediately. And then I went to work on my kidneys so that I could prevent the kidney stones from reoccurring. And I haven't had a kidney stone in over 20 something years because of sound therapy. But again, I could go on and on for hours about all the benefits that I've gotten from sound therapy and all the benefits my patients and students have gotten. But, you know, I want to stay on track here and stay with the entrainment. So this, you know, what I've said so far teaches us that we can do this ourselves and entrain the right frequencies upon doing a sound analysis, then we can use the proper sounds, because with sound therapy, we overcome these obstacles that come up with music. Because first of all, the first obstacle I already mentioned is the digital technology that music is created with sound therapy. I spent an awful lot of time and money finding an analog studio. And, as those of you out there that are musicians know how expensive it can be in the recording studio, spending several hundreds of dollars an hour of studio time. And it took me months and months for each CD or recording album that I made that's now available in downloads on my website. But so the first step we counteract by giving you pure analog recorded vocal harmonics and overtones. So it's a very pure sound. And much like an opera singer like Caruso could shatter a crystal wine glass with a sustained high frequency pitch, when you learn to do overtones, like I teach in my recordings and in my workshops, you can literally, not only have I seen them shatter glass in public television shows, but I've seen them levitate objects, I've seen them shatter glass. But the point I'm trying to make is the beautiful thing about learning vocal harmonics and overtones is you can shatter subtle energy crystallizations in the body. These subtle energy crystallizations begin to form, manifest and form and crystallize and create these health problems physically, emotionally, and psychologically. And if you wait till it's too late, you're too old, it's going to be much harder and take you a lot longer to decrystallize these energies. And this is the power of vocal harmonics. One of the many powers of vocal harmonics is that you can shatter these subtle energy crystallizations that are in the brainwave pattern and in the body. And so, first of all, we're creating organic sound that gives you healthy food that comes in. Then we're giving you harmonics and overtones to give you healthy entrainment. So you listen to harmonics and overtones in the frequencies that your sound analysis shows that you need, and you just listen to it. Maybe, I don't know, it depends on your sensitivity level, but on the average, maybe 8 to 12 minutes per day. Some people might only need to listen 4 or 5 minutes per day. Some people might need to listen 12 to 15 minutes a day. Some people, 6 or 7 minutes. Everybody's different, but when I do an analysis, I can tell you exactly how many minutes to listen to effectively entrain your brainwave pattern with the proper healing frequencies. And you can go from there. So with sound therapy, we're giving you not only the optimal organic sound from the ultimate healing instrument, the human voice, but we're also giving you the specific frequencies that your sound analysis indicates are weak in your brainwave pattern. So we bypass and give you what music can't give you in sound therapy. And then, since we're talking about subtle energy crystallizations, I could also tell you a third reason. I gave you 2 reasons why music isn't healing: the way it's recorded and the fact that it's a sonic stew. There's too many frequencies going on that cancel out anything that had any potential benefit anyway. But the third reason is on a subtle energy level. And some of you that are sensitive and intuitive and understand the healing process are probably aware how powerful your intention is. So if the person created this hit song that you like so much that you listen to regularly, if the intention from that artist was to make $1 million or to have more girlfriends or boyfriends, that's not going to help your liver or your kidneys or your health any, So you have that subtle energy of the intention behind the sound. And so that's a third thing that makes sound therapy effective. When I created these recordings, it was totally 100% based upon giving people the optimal benefit to heal whatever is going on with them. And I have those frequencies in every musical key, all 12 frequencies, all 12 keys of music, And so my intention, I know I'm not going to get rich on selling downloads or CDs of tones or harmonics, but I want to be of service. I want to give people the best support that I can imagine and I can come up with. And so that's why I created my, the foundation of my work at the Sound Therapy Center of Los Angeles since 1992. And so we've been in a different location the last, 8 years, I guess now. It's 2020. God, it's hard to believe I've been in the new space for 8 years, but 20 something years previously at the old space which was a lot larger. Space here that I have is a little bit limited in size compared to the old Sound Therapy Center, but it's much quieter, it's much nicer and newer and more comfortable. So everything's a trade-off. Maybe one day we'll get a much bigger Sound Therapy Center and be able to help hundreds and thousands of people, as I try to do when I travel internationally. Okay, so anyway, getting back and to finish up with this topic of entrainment. So hopefully you can understand now what entrainment is, specifically brainwave entrainment. We're taking responsibility with conscious intention to put the correct frequencies in the brainwave pattern. And all you really need is a diagnostic sound analysis, which I didn't mention earlier, but some of you know, can be done over the telephone. I've got, my schedule is so crazy lately. I never know if I'm sleeping in the daytime or the nighttime because I'm doing diagnostic sound analysis on Facebook Messenger and on WhatsApp for people in Europe and in Asia. And in Europe now it's, here it's about 10:30 p.m. in Los Angeles, but it's like, 8 or 9 in the morning in Europe, and it's even later in Asia. So I'm frequently up at 3 and 4 in the morning, or 5 and 6 in the morning, or whatever, to be of service to the people in Asia and Europe, because hopefully there'll be more people in the States and in California in my time zone doing this by phone, so I can keep a more normal sleep schedule and waking schedule. But right now I don't mind too much, because like I'm here to serve, and I live to give, and I love it, and I'm passionate about this work and the results that I've seen for myself and others. So keep in mind, you can do a diagnostic sound analysis by a telephone, and if you're in the United States, and if you're outside of the United States and wherever, Canada, Europe, South America, Asia, you can do it via Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp, and even Skype. Although I don't always recommend Skype, because we want to focus on the sound more than the visuals. And now I have, for the first 15 years of my practice, I didn't do this by phone because I didn't trust the phone system or that technology. I only did it live, wherever I traveled to, or Los Angeles. But now, thankfully, I found a really cool Panasonic phone that reproduces the sound perfectly. I've tested it and retested it, and I'm thankful that I've been able to do diagnostic sound analysis via the phone and a special microphone I have from anywhere in the world. So I don't have to travel everywhere, although I don't mind traveling. It's a lot more convenient for me and most people to just do it on the telephone. So another reason to get back to old school phone work too, instead of everybody on their phone like a computer and texting everybody, and nobody's talking or communicating heart to heart anymore. It's another thing I love about the diagnostic phone analysis. It's a little bit of a heart-to-heart connection. But you can also learn from, sound medicine if you're a reader. And last 2 videos, I forgot to hold up my book. So let me take a moment to do that. If you're not familiar with sound medicine, there it is in all its glory. That's the book, Sound Medicine. So you can see what it looks like. If it used to be in all the bookstores. I don't know if it still is. And although you can get it online, I appreciate those that get it from your local sound healer, as I don't, make much of anything. A few pennies from, Amazon and all these other places. So I greatly appreciate if you purchase Sound Medicine on my website, wayneperry.com. So, but the important thing is for you to get the book. So whatever is easy for you, particularly if you're abroad. I know there's a lot of tariffs or taxes and fees and stuff to buy things off a website. So if there's an outlet for you to get it in Europe or Asia and you're over there, just get it any way that you can. I just want you to have the information to be able to use it, because there's, like I said, 48 exercises in the book and lots of really good material. And if you don't have the book, or for some reason aren't able to get it for a while, go to the website. You'll learn a lot there at wayneperry.com. with all the categories I'm not going to re-mention again in the interest of time. I want to try to wind this up. So hopefully I've covered enough on entrainment and brainwave entrainment to understand that it's a vital component to sound therapy, because it's the food that goes in, the sound that comes in when you listen to those vocal harmonic frequencies, preferably live. That's the best way. The people that do my workshop, I give them a copy of this research that that shows the effectiveness of sound in the order. Ultimately, it's you making the sound yourself. Your voice is the most effective for your body, even more than my ability to make harmonics and overtones. Your voice is the most effective tool. But until you learn how to develop the skills of making the proper harmonics and overtones, which perhaps I'll demonstrate for a few seconds before I end this video, if you like, but I don't have any feedback here from people if they want to chat or ask any questions. I see a thing here that you can post questions. I'm not sure how to do it. But in any event, I'm going to be streaming more videos and learning more about this, because I'm abandoning the webinar series I was doing before. There was too many problems with the technology on my second Tuesday of the month webinars I've been doing for a couple of years. So we're not going to be doing that format. I'm going to be doing more videos and hopefully webinars, so we can reach more people and you can respond on the screen. If you can't respond to this on the screen, then we'll figure out how you can do that, and it's all good. But anyway, in closing, I just want to say that, okay, the harmonics that come into your body through the entrainment process is the food into the body. But I also want to comment again, because I kind of skipped over it a little bit, the food out of the body, sound-wise, the frequencies that go out of the body that release the blockages and clean up the energy is done through the human voice and the toning. So if you're toning and doing release sounds combined with releasing the frequencies that your sound analysis reveals are needed to release. So you don't know what sounds to release, as well as which ones to entrain without the sound analysis. But until you get the sound analysis, one little tip I can give you is you can release just vowel sounds. You could be driving in your car, stuck in traffic. You want to release the stress of the traffic, or if you have some pain, physical or emotional pain, just use your voice to make some vowel sounds, and with some volume. Don't scream. It's not primal scream therapy. You don't want to strain your vocal cords. But you can go A, E, ah, oh, ooh, A, E, ah, oh. And this will help release energy anytime, even if you don't know the pitches. Once you're able to do a sound analysis, then I can give you the exact frequencies and tones and pitches and downloads to release properly from your brainwave pattern, the blocked energy that could be blocking your healing. It could be blocking your emotional flow. There's so much in your brainwave pattern, emotionally and psychologically, as well as physically, that can interfere with your healing, with your physical healing, with your emotional healing. So you can get in there with a sound analysis and easily tone the frequencies like twice a week. My students that love to do toning, they probably do it every day like I do. But if you at least do it twice a week, you can release the blockages and identify where the blockages are and what the frequencies are and release them. That's the elimination of food, or elimination of sound in this case, of the body. And then the entrainment is the food that comes in, is identifying which frequencies are weak in your body and your brainwave pattern, and then listening to those harmonic overtones from downloads. Live is the best, but you can do it from downloads as well. I do live sessions here in Los Angeles or wherever I'm traveling to. But anyway, you're always welcome to call me at the phone number on my website if you have questions, or email me at the email address on the website, wayneperry.com. I always forget to, not always, but I sometimes forget to mention the website as wayneperry.com. So I want to close this session. I was trying to get this done in less than an hour, and I just noticed that we're already over an hour. But I promised a few people that I would demonstrate some of the third R of the 3 R's. I told you relaxing sounds are not healing sounds, although they create an environment for sound healing. And release sounds cleanse the body, but they're not directly healing sounds. But again, they set the environment for the third R, the third type of sound is the most powerful healing sound that I call regenerative sound. Those are the three R's of sound: relaxing sounds, releasing sounds, and regenerative sounds. So the regenerative sounds of vocal harmonics and overtones that I've been talking about for the past hour, I feel indebted to you for paying attention to at least demonstrate a few of them. I try to end every video with at least a few harmonics and overtones so you know what I'm talking about, and then we'll bring it to a close with sound rather than with words. So I'm going to bid adieu now, and thank you for tuning in. I'm Wayne Perry, certified sound therapist, coming out to you from the Sound Therapy Center of Los Angeles. And once again, thanks to the people that attended our weekend intensive certification workshop this past weekend in Los Angeles. The next one, again, I almost forgot to mention, the next one is coming up May 30th and 31st. That's the weekend after Memorial Day. Too much on my mind. So the weekend after Memorial Day, the 30th and 31st will be the next sound healing intensive workshop with certification. And if you register early bird registration, you get a $100 discount on the workshop. It's $395 for the whole weekend, $395, which is, I think, is a good price. I haven't raised it in years, but I have offered a $100 discount. So if you register soon, before I cut off the early bird discount, you can get it for $295. That's my plug. What happened to the picture? Oh, it went out there for a second. Somebody's getting impatient, besides me. Anyway, all right, so let's close this with some harmonics and overtones. Let me show you a single tone can be gone through the mouth or the nose. Through the mouth, you know, single toning can just be ah, ooh. That's a single tone that we could use for singing or chanting. But you can also send a tone through the nostrils. It's more muffled sounding. But if I send the sound through my nose, close my mouth, it's like humming, and it sounds, if I do the same note, it sounds like mm, mm, mm. Well, it's a couple different notes, but anyway, you get the idea. Through the nose, ah, through the mouth. That's a single tone or toning. Now, all overtoning is in addition to that fundamental note, you add a harmonic or an overtone on top of it, which are the same thing. Harmonics and overtones are the same thing. Those of you that are musically trained know this and know about the overtone series with regard to music. But with regard to sound healing, we use the harmonics and overtones to move energy. So first I'll demonstrate just toning and overtoning, and I'll kind of hold up my fingers like this so you know, not to be patronizing or whatever, but just to show you when I'm doing one tone and then one tone or two tones, because I learned some years ago that I was demonstrating a bunch of harmonics, 2 and 3 tones simultaneously, and people enjoyed it, but they didn't know what I was talking to because they didn't have a reference point. So I want to give you a little reference point. This is one tone, this is 2 tones, and I'll go back to 1 tone and 2 tones so you can hear the difference. And if you're sensitive to sound, you can even feel that energy when the second tone kicks in. You'll feel a little boost of energy if you're sensitive, and that'll give you a faint idea of how powerful sound healing vocal harmonics can be. Okay, so I'm going to send the first tone through my nose, and then I'll bring in a second one through my mouth, and then I'll raise my second finger to indicate that 2 tones are overtoning. All right, so here we go. That's all there is to it. That's toning and overtoning. I'm creating one note through the nose, the other through the mouth by just simply opening and closing the glottis in the throat, which, you know, just prevents us from drinking or eating our food or liquid going down the trachea. So, but you can use it without closing your mouth necessarily. You can close and open the glottis area to create sound through the nose and through the mouth. And that's overtoning. The first note was the fundamental. The second note was the harmonic or overtone. Now I'm going to close, like I said, instead of with words, I'm going to close with sound and some vocal harmonics. I'm going to close this presentation for you with some vocal harmonics, and we're going to do 2 and 3 tones, maybe even 4 tones might come through. I never know what comes through. So this is what we taught everybody in the workshop Sunday morning all the way to the lunch break. They learned 18 different vocal harmonic overtone exercises. So I'm going to get through as many of the exercises, but not in exercise form, and just pure spontaneity and just kind of a streaming or channeling of the harmonics and overtones. So all I'll ask you to do, give you a tip to close your eyes, because you can be more focused on receiving the sound and the food into the body, so to speak. But if you don't think I'm making with my mouth, I'll give you permission to peek. Some people think I'm using a kazoo or an instrument or a device or something. So you can peek and keep me honest if you want. But then close your eyes and get back into an inner state. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is it's only going to take about 60 seconds. So don't be thinking about what you have to do next, or if you're tired or need to eat or do this or do that. Just give yourself the gift of at least 1 minute to receive the gift of harmonics and some healing energy. If you give yourself that, that's sufficient. Then you can process what you feel, which will be dependent on your sensitivity level, of course. But, see what you experience, see what you feel. And then the last thing I'm going to mention is to try inner listening. I taught people in the workshop the process of inner listening, which is to listen not just with your ears. That's a left brain experience. If you just listen with your ears, you're kind of standing separate from the sound, and you're kind of processing it with the computer, the mind, always distracting us and saying, oh, I like that sound, or I don't like this sound, or I know that sounds high, or that sounds abrasive. Or that, it's constantly judging and analyzing, and you can do that if you want. I mean, you're free to do whatever you choose. But if you want to get the most out of this, what I would suggest you do is inner listening, where you close your eyes and you just listen with your whole body. Create the intention of listening with the pores in your skin, like they're little microphones, and the sound is going into the microphone pores of your skin. Also in your gut, they say listen with your gut or with your stomach. Listen to your body. Your body speaks to you if you pay attention. If you quiet the mind and listen to your body, you'll hear all sorts of things. So listen with your whole body, with your skin, with your organs, with all of you, with your blood, with your consciousness, with your brain. And next, listen with your emotions. Emotions are very powerful. Don't let your emotions distract you. The more you get deeper into sound, the more you'll be better at disciplining your emotions and disciplining your mind, the psychological and the emotional. It's very important to exercise more and more discipline as you go deeper and deeper in sound, especially when you get into the metaphysics of sound and the soul journeying. But we'll talk about the metaphysics of sound in a future broadcast, a future video. But so right now, I invite you to listen, close your eyes and listen with your whole consciousness, so you can be in the experience of the sound, in the process, instead of standing outside observing it with your ears and your listening. Just participate with me. And the last words I'm going to say here before I create the sound is an invocation, because anytime you do any healing work, toning work, healing work, always have a prayer or an invocation. You always want to put spirit first. You put God before other things. So you always put spirit first. That's the secret to healthy relationships. I teach a sound relationship workshop. We'll try to address that again. I did one last summer on sound relationships, and I did one in Taiwan last year, and I'll probably be doing one here online soon. But in any event, just tune in with your emotions and your body, your spirit. Create clear intention. This isn't going to take long. Just go within yourself, and please join me in spirit as I invoke and evoke the divine loving consciousness of the infinite spirit within, Father, Mother, God, infinite intelligence, divine love and wisdom. As a clear and open channel with sound, light, and love as my guides, I ask that the sound of light now uplift us. May the light of sound now guide and direct us. May the love of spirit embrace and protect us. It's all about sound, light, and love. And may the sacred sound of our souls resonate through us now for the healing and harmony of all, all, I love you.